The enigma of death masks across civilizations. What happens after we die? This is perhaps the oldest and most unsettling question in human history. Every civilization, no matter how distant in time or space, has confronted the mystery of death. And while the answers differ, one fascinating object appears again and again: the death mask. These masks, often sculpted from precious metals, carved from stone, or molded directly from the face of the deceased, served a profound purpose. They were more than art. They were symbols of passage, protection, and identity, bridges between the world of the living and the unknown realm beyond. The tradition of death masks stretches across continents and eras. From the golden visage of Tutankhamun in Egypt, to the jade masks of the ancient Maya, to the wax impressions of European nobility, humanity has repeatedly turned to the idea of covering the face of the dead with a second, eternal face. But why? At its core, the death mask embodied the belief that the face is the essence of a person. To preserve the face was to preserve identity itself. In Egypt, it was essential for the soul to recognize its body in the afterlife. Among the Maya, jade masks symbolized rebirth, aligning the dead with the eternal cycle of nature. In medieval Europe, plaster or wax masks were used to preserve the exact likeness of kings, philosophers, and poets, ensuring their memory would never fade. But there is another layer. Across cultures, these masks were also meant to protect. They were shields for the soul against evil forces, guardians in the perilous journey to the afterlife. For the Egyptians, the mask offered magical protection, with inscriptions that invoked divine power. For the Inca, masks of gold represented the sun itself, a force of divine rebirth. What is striking is how universal this practice was. These civilizations were separated by oceans, deserts, and centuries, yet all reached for the same idea: covering the dead with a face that could transcend mortality. Could this be coincidence? Or is there something deeply human, perhaps even archetypal, in our instinct to create a mask for the dead? Even the materials chosen carried meaning. Gold, incorruptible and radiant, was used by the Egyptians and Incas to represent eternity. Jade, treasured by the Maya, symbolized life force and regeneration. In Europe, more fragile materials like plaster or wax reflected a different idea: that memory itself is sacred, even if the body decays. When you see these masks today, displayed in museums under glass, they appear as works of art. Yet they were never meant to be admired by the living. They were meant to function in the invisible world, the world of the dead. To wear a mask in life is to assume a role, to hide or transform. To wear a mask in death, it seems, was to step into eternity. And so we are left with haunting questions. Were death masks simply symbols, or did ancient people believe they literally worked as doorways to another realm? Were they protections against evil, or keys to a new existence? And why, across so many different cultures, does this same mysterious object emerge? The story of death masks is not just about archaeology. It is about the deepest fears and hopes of humankind. They remind us that, no matter where or when we lived, we have always searched for a way to bridge the terrifying gap between life and death. Egypt, the eternal gaze of the pharaohs. No culture embraced the afterlife more passionately than ancient Egypt. For the Egyptians, death was not an end but a transition, a journey into a realm where eternal life awaited those who were prepared. And at the heart of this preparation was the death mask. The most famous example is the mask of Tutankhamun, discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter. Made of solid gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli, quartz, and colored glass, it weighs over 20 pounds. This mask was not merely a burial ornament, it was a statement of cosmic power. Tutankhamun, though a young pharaoh who died mysteriously at only 19, was immortalized through a mask that still gazes at us across 3,000 years. But why did the Egyptians create such masks? The answer lies in their religious beliefs. They believed each person had multiple souls: the Ka, which stayed with the body, and the Ba, which traveled freely. For the soul to reunite after death, the body had to remain recognizable. Thus, preserving the face through mummification and masks was essential. Without it, the spirit risked being lost forever. The materials used were not chosen at random. Gold symbolized the flesh of the gods, eternal and incorruptible. Blue lapis lazuli represented the heavens. Carnelian and turquoise stood for vitality and rebirth. To wear such a mask meant literally wrapping oneself in divine energy. Beyond spiritual function, masks carried political power. Pharaohs were not just rulers, they were divine intermediaries between gods and men. The mask ensured that even in death, this sacred role continued. The serene expression, the stylized features, and the royal headdress all reinforced the idea that the pharaoh was more than human, he was eternal. But ordinary Egyptians also sought protection through simpler masks. Wooden masks painted with idealized features, or even plaster coverings, were placed on the faces of lesser nobles and citizens. Though less lavish, the message was the same: to protect identity and secure safe passage to the afterlife. Even today, when we look into Tutankhamun's eyes, we feel something uncanny. It is as though he still gazes back at us, defying time and death. Could it be that the Egyptians were right? That these masks truly did hold power, not just in symbol, but in reality? De mysteri remains unsolved. But what is clear is this: for the Egyptians, the death mask was not an object of mourning, but a tool of victory, a victory over death itself. Europe and the Americas, preserving memory and spirit. While the Egyptians saw death masks as gateways to eternity, in Europe, they often had a more practical function: preserving the memory of the deceased. In ancient Greece and Rome, masks were made by pressing wax or plaster onto the face of the dead, capturing their exact likeness. These were not only funerary objects, but also tools of remembrance. Roman aristocratic families displayed masks of their ancestors during processions, reminding citizens of their lineage and power. To preserve the face was to preserve prestige and history. It was a way of saying, this person lived, ruled, and must not be forgotten. In the Middle Ages and Renaissance, the tradition evolved. Death masks were made of famous philosophers, kings, and artists, among them Dante Alighieri, Isaac Newton, Beethoven, and Napoleon. These masks, often chillingly realistic, became prototypes for later sculptures and portraits. They froze a person's identity at the moment of death, suspending time. But across the Atlantic, among the Maya, Aztec, and Inca, the function of masks was far more mystical. The Maya crafted masks of jade, believing this stone carried the essence of life and fertility. Jade was eternal, it never decayed. Covering the dead with jade masks symbolized rebirth into a new existence. The Aztecs created masks of turquoise and obsidian, stones associated with cosmic energy and divine protection. Some were so finely crafted that they seem impossibly modern. The Incas, meanwhile, turned to gold, the symbol of the sun. To cover the dead in gold was to assure they would be reborn in the light of Inti, the sun god. What unites all these practices is the belief that the mask was not decoration. It was a key to memory, power, or eternal life. Whether preserving the face of a Roman emperor for history or ensuring the rebirth of a Mayan noble, the mask served as humanity's attempt to conquer the finality of death. And yet, the uncanny similarity remains. Why did so many cultures, who never communicated, invent the same ritual? Were they all reaching for the same truth, one we have yet to understand? Unsolved mysteries and modern reflections. As we piece together these stories, a strange pattern emerges. Across Egypt, Europe, and the Americas, death masks served different purposes, yet they all shared one message: the face must not disappear. Why? Was it because the face holds our essence? Was it because memory is all we leave behind? Or is it because, deep down, humans have always sensed that death is not the end, that there is a journey to be taken, and the mask is our passport? Modern science often dismisses these objects as cultural artifacts. But standing before them in a museum, many people report a strange sensation, a feeling of being watched, as if the masks still hold life. Could there be more to them than art? Could ancient civilizations have known something about death that we have forgotten? Today, we no longer make death masks. Instead, we rely on photographs, videos, and digital memories. But is that so different? We, too, cling to the face as identity, refusing to let it vanish. In our own way, perhaps we are still making masks, just with new tools. The mystery of death masks remains unsolved. They are echoes of a timeless question: what lies beyond? And now the question passes to you. Do you believe death masks were merely symbolic works of art, or do you think they held real power in guiding souls to the afterlife? Could these ancient practices hide secrets that modern science has yet to uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more investigations into the mysteries of the past, and join us as we continue exploring the secrets that humanity has left behind.